Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of That Solo Life, the podcast about working for yourself, working independently. We focus on the PR and marketing world. My name is Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and my fantastic, as always, co-host is Karen Swim of Words for Hire and the head honcho at Solo PR Pro, which is the gathering place for all of us solos on that solo life. And Karen, you're traveling this week, right?
I am traveling. Good morning, which for all of my colleagues out there, whether you are solo or working in traditional employment, you know that just adds an extra level of madness to a week as you try to wrap up things that you don't think that you're going to be able to do. And those few hours on a plane can seem like a lifetime away from the world, which we should actually relish and enjoy, but it freaks us out that something is going to go wrong and we won't be able to jump in and manage it. So, yeah, crazy.
Right. Yeah, which kind of brings us to our theme. We were talking off air about how it just feels like life. I mean, we know life is fast. We know technology is fabulous and it's not really the cause of us flying too fast. But, like I've said lately, I feel like my life is flying faster than my brain, is keeping up with. I mean, not that anything horrible's happened. I mean, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I think it's probably mostly, well, I don't say mostly a head game. I think part of it is how we perceive things, but I think it's also partly, goodness, this could speak to the whole managing expectations, and sometimes it really starts with us.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, life is fast. Let's just admit that. And it's fast because everyone is going at a pace, right? And so
Right.
that's the world that we live in. That's the culture that we live in. But we can find ways to slow that down. And, it's funny. I've had so many conversations lately because I'm sort of I slowed down my own pace. And it's interesting to me because I was having issues. I was struggling. I was struggling with my energy levels. I was feeling anxious, depressed, and I'm like, I can't live like this. I refuse. I was stressed. And so I had to make changes for my own health and sanity, and making those changes does take a decision every single day.
Right.
But I have noticed that since I have just really become, like I've slowed the pace way down, and I just have so many moments where I am, I built in like a lot more quiet time. I built in more time away from doing to really thinking or just being. I'm noticing even more how everybody else around me is just super stressed out. And I was talking to another colleague this week who just was saying how she and her family were discussing how they feel like life is getting away from them. And she's solo as well. And they were like, we don't know what to do. How do we slow this down?
I think it, like you said, it takes a conscious decision to perhaps hit the pause button and just sit down and evaluate. I mean, I have even thought this week of, I need to sit down and literally do a list on paper, pull out a spiral bound notebook. And because, I'm 10 years into this way of life and this way of working, which freaks me out on a totally different level of what really, but, things are different from when I started. When you start out, and it's not to say there aren't peaks and valleys, there are. But it's a different kind of managing. It's a different kind of course, you're always on the eye, keeping your eyes open for new business, maintaining your current clients, but you know that life can change in an instant. So you always have to be at the ready as a solo business owner. But it just feels a little different in that I have to stop myself and say, you know what, Michelle, it's been 10 years. What is still working for you and what isn't? And my goodness, I know I need to get a little more margin in my life. Sometimes I'm like, I miss looking up and staring at the sky. And I know I do it to myself.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's changed in 10 years is that we have a lot more inputs, right? So, I've been doing this for 15 years now. And what's changed is that early on we had email and then we had social media, but it was more of a choice. And now in any given day, you know, you have Slack messages, you have GroupMe messages, you have text messages, you have the phone, you have email, you have Messenger. So you have lots of things coming at you from a lot of different directions. So now when you add all of this communication into the mix, we're not imagining that things have become more complex. They truly have. And this is not even about keeping up a presence with social media or any of that. It's about the communications that we receive from multiple channels throughout the day. And so we still have all of these things to do. And I think that when you have, you know, people, it's almost like having people poke you all day long, like poke, 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 poke. I think it creates this anxiety to not only get things done, but to get them all done at once. Like it puts you in this urgency mode. And so,
which is not productive.
It's not productive. It's not. And it just creates unnecessary stress. So I have, you know, what turned around me and my anxiety was.
There they're poking.
I know. Is I became a student of not doing that, you know? And so I began to like devour everything about productivity, wellness, digital balance, and still do, you know, I just began to read and take advice and put things into practice. And so a couple of key things that helped was I went back to, and this was a suggestion from Michael Smart. He wrote an article, and Michael Smart is a PR pro who also coaches other PR pros, and he puts out fantastic content. And so Michael Smart was sharing how he starts every day by like journaling, like writing everything. And we call this, you know, we call this monkey mind. So the way that I call monkey mind is in the morning is in addition to meditation and prayer, I journal and I write down every single thought that's like running through my head. And so sometimes it looks like a crazy mess when I'm journaling, but at the end of that, then I can step back and say, okay, well, what do I really need to focus on today? Because there are things that I want to get done. There are things that actually need to get done. And you know what? There's things that would be nice to get done, but it doesn't have to happen that day. So when I clear sort of that clutter out, because, you know, you have all of these things like, oh
my gosh, did you crawl into my mind?
Yeah. And you spit it out on paper and then you take a step back and you're like, okay, so now that I've cleared that out, I can actually see what's really important. And then I monotask. I don't try to do 3 things at once anymore. First of all, that doesn't work. I'm sorry, you multitasking people. It is a rarity according to science. There are only a very small percentage of the population that actually can multitask. So that means for the majority of us, it's not something that you do effectively.
No, and it's not good for your brain.
It's not good for your brain.
Flat out, that's how your brain was designed to work. And it's funny, I was the queen of multitasking, you know, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
You know, back when that was a badge of honor. And I'm like, I can rock it. Yeah. And then you realize, why? Why am I doing this? For the praise of it? You know, you're a great multitasker. Great, thank you.
And you know what happens when you focus on one single thing at a time? You get it done faster and better because you're devoting your attention. So you're clearing away the distractions. You're focusing on one thing and you're you're getting it done, and you're getting it done well. And so I've learned to, I've learned to use my out of office more than I ever have. I just turn
Yes.
it on, like, because you don't have to be out of the office. You can be unavailable for half a day or for a couple of
Right.
hours. You can use it to let people know that you're in meetings and you'll get back to them. And if it's urgent, how to reach you. It's surprisingly effective. And turn off alerts. Build time into your day to focus. Turn off. I have do not disturb periods, and like in the evening, I have set times where my phone is set to no longer ring. I have my business phone set to office hours, so it does not ring through. It goes straight to voicemail at a certain point in the day, because I have limited resources, and so do you. And if we all don't take responsibility for caring for our greatest asset, then you and your business will die. And I hate to break it to you all, but no matter how nice your clients are, no matter how great your relationships are with them, if you drop dead or you're out of commission, they are going to send condolences, maybe send flowers, say they're sorry, hope you feel better, and keep it moving. And that it should be an eye-opener that people expect you to take care of yourself. But we also are responsible for doing our best work, right? And we can't do it with this crazy,
frazzled.
It's just insane. And I swear, I honestly do feel like a rebel when I am like, I feel like going to the park because I just want to be out in nature with my dog, and I want to look up at the sky, and I want to see the color in the trees. And I really don't care that people are sending me emails. Life will keep turning, and you know what? I can get back to them in 2 hours. It's going to be okay.
Good. Because you know what? They're not sitting there at their email watching it. I hope she responds.
No, they're not.
Did she respond now? Did she respond now? And I think that's the thing. I think part of what possibly energizes us and keeps us motivated is that, okay, I've got to get this done for them before, I want to get it done before they ask where it is, or blah, 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 blah. And I know for myself, I have to curb that sort of negative motivation. And I've done a fairly good job of it, flipping that around. You want to be responsible and meet your deadlines. You certainly don't want to miss them, but at the same time, don't let that kind of fear-based motivation rule you. That's not healthy either. It's just sit down, take a breath, and like you said, focus on one thing. And I've found even, you can get great little online gadgets to help you. If you use Chrome, there's the Pomodoro timers to help you just say, okay, for 25 minutes, I'm going to write this bio and see where I get. And, just one thing. Or, sometimes I might hum, is it the Abominable Snowman in the old shows? Just put one foot in front of the other song, and soon you'll be walking out the door. Anyway.
I love that. That's hilarious. I love that. And I love, here's a plug for a former client, great company. I love Rescue Time because it shows you like how you're using your digital time, and it connects to your Google Calendar. There's a Google Calendar integration, and you get a report every week. And so I can actually, and you can set, productivity goals. And so that you focus on the stuff that you really want to focus on. And honestly, working with them over a long period of time really enlightened me to communication overload and distractions. They put out some great content, by the way. And so if you visit their blog, there's so many great tips and so much great information about the modern workforce. But you're right. I mean, we have to take control of this. And I love what you said about the negative motivation, because PR people in general, I honestly feel like we are one of the hardest, most caring group of professionals. And I know that there are others, but I just find that when I meet other PR people, whether they're solo or, working for, agencies or companies, we really care, and we really care about leaving it all on the floor. We give everything
Absolutely.
to our work, and it matters to us. And we're so committed and so passionate and so demanding of ourselves. And so I think that we, in particular, as professional communicators, really sometimes need, inspiration to set those boundaries and to take a step back. So I've learned, even when a client, and I are talking about, deliverables, to say, okay, so I can get that to you next week. Is that
Right.
an issue? I set the timeline that I know that's going to work, instead of saying, okay, you'll have it by the end of the day. Okay, tomorrow, because
Exactly. Because you're setting yourself up
you're setting
probably
yourself
for
up.
failure, because you
Yes.
can't. We're not machines. And, I love the beauty of the freedom of, last week a client had a major event, and sure, I worked some beyond the norm, and that's okay, because that's what it required. And they just passed along some phenomenal feedback from the attendees, which, made it so worth it. But at the same time, I adore keeping regular business hours. It just helps me work more, I don't know, properly. I hate to
Yes.
say that word, but of course, yeah, like you, if you want to pop out for a walk, yeah, of course we have the freedom to do that. But it helps me set mental boundaries of, no, this is work time. Okay. Sometimes I might work till 7 or 8, depends on what the requirement is, or where I might have to be the next day, or whatever. But at the same time, it kind of helps me and also manage the expectations, of the clients of, yes, this is when you can count on me for the most part being available to you.
Yes.
And it helps train them away from the other direction. Thankfully.
Yes.
They
And
don't.
in addition to the kickoff meeting with clients, I have an onboarding document, and it includes, communication kind of guidelines, like, here are our
Right.
team's work hours. Here is how you reach us. Here's how often you can expect to meet with us. We talk about that. How
Right.
often are we going to meet? And, if other things come up, what's the preferred method of communication, rather than saying, oh, just, communicate with me everywhere, we ask, because, if it's Slack, that's cool. So then we know that, we'll use Slack for this, and maybe we'll use email for, other things. But it kind of helps to really just begin to scope that out at the beginning and document it, give it to the client, so that now you've established sort of the rules of the road. And clients are human beings. No one is going to, berate you for not wanting to work 15 hours a day every day. And honestly, if they do, then you have to consider if that's a client that you want to work for. I do know clients like that.
Right.
And I do know clients that have a fire hose culture. They're not my clients, because that's not how I do my best work. But there may be others who really thrive in that environment. I personally don't. And so I think that that's really important too. And I think that even when you're employed, figure out what allows you to thrive, and don't be afraid to, put time on your calendar. Like, I have found that there are days that I, just block out an hour to do nothing but think. I just think.
Yes.
I mean, really, it's quiet, and I think, and I'll jot down notes and ideas, because if we don't allow room to, create, to invent, to innovate, to think about our businesses, what tasks can we improve? Are there skills that I need to work on? If you're never giving yourself a moment to breathe and to think, then you're just doing, and you're just always in reaction mode.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I was talking with a colleague. He always brings this up. There's productivity and busyness are two separate animals. It's like, oh, great, you're busy, but are you accomplishing what you need to accomplish? Yeah. And it's another colleague actually said this just in passing, and it's just stuck in my head. not that I don't respect myself, but he's like, yeah, you got to respect yourself. Who else is going to? And I thought, you know what? That
True.
speaks to how I spend my time,
Yeah.
and all sorts of things. It speaks to the self-care of it all. And, what makes me so special that I think I can, you know, just keep on keeping on. And then, like you say, you're not as sharp as you might want to be. So it's been I've been really intentional about that of late. And, really, I don't know if anyone else out there is having this, but, you just have to make that mental shift for different phases of your business of, you're not in startup mode anymore. So start to act a little differently and that it's okay. Now you're in this mode.
Yeah, I
And,
agree. And a
you know,
good way to sort of check if you're not sure if you're out of balance is to think about what your family is saying about you and your friends. So, do people say, "Oh, you're always so busy?" So, I know
yes,
society wears that busyness badge like a badge of honor. To me, it's not.
I'm over it.
If that's how I'm viewed as, oh, you're always so busy, that's a negative, and that means that I need to fix something because if, I don't want to be seen as busy. I want to be seen as effective. I want to be seen
Correct.
as successful. I want to be seen as somebody who cares about quality, but not busy. I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And honestly, I found that a lot of people are like, oh, you're always working. No, I'm not. That's not, is that what I want on my tombstone when I die? She was always working. That's pretty boring.
Right. Or, although sometimes that checks me, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe that's only when you see me, but there are plenty of times where I'm not.
So if those people have like a small window into your life and that's all they see, but it's a good measure to sort of reflect and say,
it is a good measure.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Because if it's true, it will bother you. I promise you.
Please. This may be 5 years ago. It dawned on me, at my umpteenth, little card exchange, that happens at 5:00. And, you're just, you're there and you realize, oh my gosh, is this my only social life?
Yeah.
Just because I'm standing here with a glass of wine does not make it a social fun event. Oh my goodness, I'm so sad. But it's true. It's I forget the article, but I saw it in passing of, it probably speaks to parts of this of, this is why you don't see your friends anymore. Because we're all, not all of us, but so many of us are, carrying out our days this way and not realizing that we have a lot more power than we realize. I think we just need to sit down and figure that out. And, for me, hey, I know I can become a creature of habit, or you get in a routine. So, well, this is this routine right now. And guess what? You were in a different routine before that might have been a little better for you or whatever. And, granted, like life circumstances might have required a change, but that's not forever. So, maybe it's a case of taking even 10 minutes and just thinking, gosh, you know what? This routine I'm in, is it the best thing for me? Do I have the ability to change it? Do my circumstances dictate that, okay, yeah, I could do this first thing in the morning instead of that and still get the job done. And much like you said about, being seen as always busy, wanting to not wear that badge of busy does not mean that we still don't leave it all on the field when we work for our clients. I have always given 120%, but that then requires even more so that when I'm not working, I am so not working.
Agreed.
Because that's the way I knew. Did you notice I said that past tense? I knew I would be.
Well, I was sharing with my colleague, one who, she and her husband were talking about, how they feel like life is, they can't catch up with it. And for those out, in our audience who may have children, this will really resonate with you if you feel like, you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
missing it, that everybody, even your kids, are so busy. Then, one of the things that I mentioned, and you'll hear me say this often, is that God bless the millennials, because I feel like
Yeah.
millennials, that generation, ushered us into reflecting about making it about a full life and a whole life. They live, and
Right.
they're not so tied to things as opposed to
Right.
experiences. And hey,
Correct.
every generation, every human being, we have our good parts and our bad parts. And, I'm not saying that they've gotten everything right, but I love that they are passionate about everything. Everything is with such gusto, whether it's work or life, but they're not willing to just accept that life is about working 12 hours a day and just being so busy that you miss everything else. And I love that. I love that, being surrounded by different generations who help me to sort of check myself and to say,
Yes.
maybe there's something to be taken from that. Over the years, I've become a lot more minimalist. And so I relate to the millennials in a lot of ways, and share a lot of the
Oh,
same
totally.
values. I don't want my
Totally.
life to be about work. I mean, that's just, it's
Right.
just, yesterday,
Right.
we mentioned I'm traveling, which, makes, I don't know about any of you, but it makes me crazy because there's just so many details to take care of on the home front and on the work front. And, in the middle of just trying to check things off the list, my little niece, video calls me on Messenger Kids, and I
Aw.
just stopped everything immediately. And it didn't matter that
Aw.
she just wanted to giggle about her cousin, or, just show me the floor and look at the dog. And in the big scheme of things, was it,
That's awesome.
world changing? No, but it was world changing to me because I love her. And in that moment, for me, that's all that mattered. And so I just stopped everything to have this video call with my niece for half an hour. And it's not like she's even out of town, but I thought, yes,
Perfect,
I
though. You
did.
needed that. Now that was your pick-me-up
It
break. That was
totally
your time.
was.
Now I have to say now I have to say my break is not. I'm not sure if you're hearing the lawn mower
Oh,
man circling my home. So forgive me, I've been trying to mute, sporadically. But, yeah, I mean, it's those moments, and I think, the whole millennial mindset of carving out the life you
yes.
desire, I'm a board too. I mean,
Speaking of life,
I'm a cranky Gen X. Yeah, there we go. Hey, Belle. I'm as cranky of a Gen Xer as anyone else, but you do get to that point where even when as friends, when, you try to gift each other, it's like, look, if I can't attend it, eat it, or wear it, I don't want it. I don't need another tchotchke.
I love it. I love it.
Let's just go do something together because we know
Yeah.
time is so precious. As you grow up and you have families or you have familial obligations and you're taking care of this, you're taking care of that. Just going out to dinner sometimes is
I
gift
know. I
enough.
haven't done that in forever,
And
but I'm going to do it this weekend.
right?
Well, it's
Better.
funny because when
Yeah.
you were saying, how we really don't see people anymore, it just, sometimes I feel like our
Mm.
whole, in America, let's get this straight. In America, it feels like our
Yeah.
whole culture is
True.
just like a bunch of cranky old people. I feel like we just, it's just like we're all so cranky and stressed. And it's why we retreat to, like, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I hate you. It just seems like everybody's so angry and cranky. Like, and
I thought that was just here in the
no, I think it's
Northeast.
everywhere. And I truly believe it's part of that is because, well, all we do is work and read horrible news stories
True.
and sit on Twitter and like rant at each other. So it's so easy to become divided and retreat to our corners. And that's,
It's funny you mentioned that because I haven't, sadly, I have not traveled abroad recently, but the few times I have, I mean, I remember being in London and standing, on the tube platform and
Yeah.
just observing, like, okay, this is a successful city. People get it done every bit as much as we do back home, but I didn't feel that intensity of the people. And similarly, I was in Vancouver, Canada, and it cracked me up. They actually stop for the stoplights, the pedestrian stoplights. They actually stop even if there's no traffic coming the other way.
That's
My Canadian friend was like, "Yeah, no, we stop." And I said, "My gosh," I said, "I'm taking a nap here. We can go. There's no one
That's hilarious. Whereas in the United States, people will, if the speed limit is 45 and you are going 43, people will lean on their horns like you have murdered someone. Like, what's wrong with you?
Well, or at least my blood pressure will rise a little bit. Yes. And I thought, I'm like, no. Back home, I would just see like, oh yeah, I can make it before that car comes through the green light.
Yeah.
Although I will say, San Diegans, they have an even keel that was highly disturbing to me. I couldn't figure it out, except I finally learned they don't have an edge. But if I can't see your edge, I don't know. That just makes me relieved. To which when I used to travel more for work, I would try to at least do the hop on, hop off for a few hours just to feel like I was in the city where we were having. And the gentleman running the tickets there, he was from Chicago, which cracked me up when he said, "Well, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I'm in the Philly burbs." He goes, "Philly people." Right away, I'm like, "What?" Because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I'm like, "Really, Chicago?" But then I said, I'm like, dude, what is up with these people? They're all so even. They're also like unironically pleasant. I can't tell where their edges.
So funny
How do
because I'm from Southern California, and funny enough, San Diego is where I'm headed. And yeah,
let me know if it's changed. I mean, it was fun. It was
when you
genuine.
live there, you don't think that you just don't think really about it. But when you are from there and you go somewhere else and people are not chatting each other up in line and not like saying hello, you feel like, what's wrong with these people?
Funny. Well, I didn't feel that as much in LA, but San Diego, I thought, ooh, there's a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Well, my force, not saying my force is right. Not by a long shot, but it just cracked me up. I'm like, yeah, what's going on here? They're not going to all kill me in my sleep, are they? Because they're all far too nice. I don't trust it.
It's a sunshine, and it's hey, it's why
right now. Visit Philly saying, "Shut her up now." We are a lovely town. In fact, I once was a tourist for a day riding the little Flash, spelled with a PH, trolley, and just chatting up the tourists, saying you're having a nice time, everyone treating you well, with that edge of everyone better be treating you well, because if they don't,
that's so hilarious. Well, so we're nearing the end of our time, and so we'll say
we are.
Don't be cranky and angry
because we're enjoying it. No, it's just how we talk. That old shirt, I'm not angry, I'm from Philly.
Yeah.
It's just
don't be cranky and angry, and build some life and or build some living into your life. It just busyness is not your aim. You don't want to be busy. You want to be effective. And there is, as your client said, there's a really big difference in that. And, try the monotasking because your brain will thank you and your productivity will soar. I promise you. And, if you need reinforcements, Michelle and I are out there, so you can find us. You can find us on social media. We're everywhere. So hit us up and say, "Oh my God, I'm struggling with this," and we'd be happy to, share additional resources. We'd love it if you all, chatted with us on Twitter and had some conversations around this. Just, tag us and tag That Solo Life or hashtag Solo PR, and we'd love to chat with you, audience. And
And that would be great. And you know what? Take
Oh,
15 minutes
yeah.
for yourself today. It'll, trust me, speaking from experience, it's like, can I? Yes, it
It
will
will be
be
okay.
okay. Yeah. So until next time, we'll all be okay. And I wish you safe
Thank you.
travels. And yeah, until next time, thanks for listening to another episode of That Solo Life.